the President of the United States, the future President of the United States, illegitimate?
Well, as I said over the weekend, I served with John Lewis. I disagreed with him on many issues, but I respect the role that he's played in the civil rights movement and the voting rights movement. And that's why I was just so disappointed that he would make the statement that he made, suggesting that President-elect Trump is not a legitimate president. And I urge him to reconsider that statement. This is a week where we ought to be coming together. We ought to be standing together this coming Friday, celebrating the peaceful transfer of power in this country. You'll see President-elect Trump take the oath of office, speak to the nation in his inaugural address, surrounded by 4 of the 5 living presidents. It is a testament to the world of the vibrancy of our democracy, and for someone of John Lewis's stature to lend credibility to the baseless assertions of those who question the legitimacy of this election is deeply disappointing. I hope he reconsiders it.
Well, Mr. Pence, Hillary's team has been pushing this narrative because they lost. I mean, you guys won fair and square, and yet they're trying to say, look, the reason we were going to win until Russia got involved. You won fairly and squarely.
Well, that's exactly right, and it was a landslide, 30 out of 50 states. Donald Trump won, including Georgia, by the way. And Donald Trump won more counties than any Republican candidate since Ronald Reagan. The American people have spoken, and this really is a time for us to set aside this narrative that is being pushed by many, this baseless narrative of illegitimacy, and see it for what it is. It is a distraction. It is just politics as usual, and the American people are tired of it. I think this week is going to be a wonderful reminder to people all across this country, all across the political spectrum, of what a magnificent democracy that we have. And for me and for my little family, we couldn't be more humbled to be a part of it.
Well, the outgoing CIA director, Brennan, he was on Fox News Sunday with Chris Wallace over the weekend, and he basically criticized Donald Trump, said he was naive when it comes to Russia. So Donald Trump goes on Twitter and he tweets, oh, really? You think you have a problem with me? Well, how about your record on Crimea and Syria and Ukraine? And then he says, is this guy the leaker of fake news? What was your response to that?
Well, I can tell you, Ainsley, that the president-elect has a firm grasp of the realities that we face in the world, and he and I are both convinced that the failure of American foreign policy, the failure for America to stand strong on the world stage and be taken seriously, has literally created a vacuum in which Russia and other countries have been able to overrun America's interests time after time. And I can assure all of your viewers that to be around our president-elect is to be around somebody who sees the world for what it is, but he's also prepared to re-engage the world. Since Election Day, he has talked to dozens of world leaders in an effort to reassert America's interest around the world. Now, we're always going to put America first.
Right.
Put the interests of America first, but as President of the United States, I can assure you that surrounding himself with this great team that America saw in those confirmation hearings in part last week, that Donald Trump is going to square his shoulders. He's going to engage the world, and we're going to look for opportunities really to make progress for peace and security.
Well, Mr. Pence, for Donald Trump to suggest that Brennan could be the leaker in chief, I know you don't know for sure. And leaking is how Washington operates. But when it comes to leaking these kind of details, it's a crime. Mr. Pence?
What I would suggest to you is that all of us that participate in classified briefings understand that we are never to discuss the information that's presented in those briefings. And I think that particularly the salacious and baseless opposition research that a handful of media organizations carried last week for a time is evidence of just what how wrong things can be when this happens. We just need to get back, to reject the fake news of last week and the fake news that's emerged so much in the public debate and get back to the facts and
Right.
and bring this, bring all of the acrimony that's being generated by some toward this incoming administration.
Vice President
And
Pence
I have to tell you, I woke up this morning and I just think of this week. I think of my immigrant grandfather. I think of the privileges my family's been given, and it's hard really to describe how humbling it is for me and my family to imagine just a few short days we'll stand on that inaugural platform, raise our right hand, and take the oath of office to serve with the 45th president.
On Ronald Reagan's Bible.
Right.
Well, that's it. I had the privilege of choosing the person who would swear me in, and also choosing the Bible that I would do it on. And I have such enormous respect for President Reagan. I actually had the chance to meet him many years ago when he was still in the White House. I actually became a Republican because of Ronald Reagan. I like to tell people until this Friday, Ronald Reagan will be my favorite president. But to be able to put my hand on that Bible that he put his hand on, as well as a family Bible that I open every day, is just a very humbling thing.
Right.
And then to have Justice Clarence Thomas administer the oath of office, a man who's in his 25th year on the Supreme Court, who's built a record of consistent conservative jurisprudence like very few in American history, it's a great privilege for me, for my wife, for our children, our daughter-in-law, and we're just counting the hours till that happens.
And I understand when you got the Bible, it was open to a certain passage. It was 2 Chronicles 7:14. Why is that significant for you?
Well, President Reagan actually took the oath of office on that verse, which is in part, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray, that he will hear from heaven and heal the land. And that actually, Ainsley, is a verse that I often close speeches with on the campaign trail.
Mm-hmm. We've heard you do that.
Because to learn that President Reagan actually took his oath of office twice with his hand on that verse. And I'll have his Bible open to that verse again, and my Bible will be open to a verse that I took my oath of office on as governor, that simply is a prayer for a discerning heart to distinguish between right and wrong, that a young King Solomon prayed.
On a less deep note,
lighter and sweeter
note, just real quick on legislation in particular. I know you've been going to the Hill trying to get Democrats on board, and you met with them last week. If you don't get 60 votes, you're not going to be able to replace Obamacare. What specifically can you tell us Democrats have told you they need to get on board?
Well, look, the President-elect made it very clear to the leadership in the Congress that he wants to do repeal and replace simultaneously, and we're working earnestly to do that. Congress last week in the House and Senate voted for resolutions to begin the process of repealing Obamacare.
On party lines, though.
And that's right, it was. It's a budget resolution. Those are typically along party lines, Brian, but we really do believe that as we move forward, the huge burden that Obamacare has placed on individuals and families and businesses, premiums rising more than 100% in some states around the country, relieving that burden, but also bringing forward legislation that will allow people to purchase health insurance across state lines, that will allow people, again, to choose their doctor, to keep their insurance. You heard the aspiration of the President-elect over this weekend. We're going to build a better healthcare economy built on market principles, but it all begins with taking the burden of Obamacare off.
Right, sure. But do Democrats see it that way?
Immediately with those market reforms.
You need the Democrats. Before you go, we've got to ask you about a report in the Washington Post, and I don't know why we're leaving the big story for the end. Thursday night, you were in Chevy Chase, Maryland. You were at a Safeway store. You ran in. You bought 2 half-gallon tubs of Turkey Hill ice cream, as seen right here. We don't know what flavor it was. Can you spill the beans right now?
I think it was Fudge Swirl. I'm not really sure, but
that sounds delicious.
I ended up tweeting that after somebody reported it online. I said I can confirm when Mrs. Pence tells me to stop and pick up ice cream, I stop and pick up ice cream.
Well, by the way, we have some breaking news.
Good man.
Donald Trump wants you to stop tweeting. if you can.
All right, Mike Pence, you've got an historic